where if you have a public service announcement, and so it's for nonprofits only. And what they do is they put it out on a radio station on I think it's 3 or 5 different radio stations that they broadcast it on, and it's free. It's free for the
Where's the radio station?
It's in Fresno.
Fresno?
In downtown Fresno, right there.
Okay.
So it's not too far.
Cool. Well, welcome to the HalliGoons podcast. I'm sitting here with, is it Lino?
Lino. Yeah, Lino
okay, I didn't
Camancho.
want to mispronounce your name. So
no worries.
Camacho. So Lino, just tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, were you born here in Farmersville?
I was born in Visalia, raised in Farmersville, and then I would go back and forth from Farmersville to Mexicali, right there near the border.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's supposed to be right there.
No.
Oh no,
sorry.
it's
not supposed to be there.
Good call. I saw it. I wasn't sure if that was recording or not.
I'm still kind of new to the podcast game, so I'm trying to get familiar with like the different cameras and stuff. But yeah, man, I actually read your book, The Hope for the 22.
Oh, you read that one already? Oh, okay.
It was. I had a lot of common with you.
Oh, okay.
It was really surprising.
Yeah.
I also lived in San Diego, and
really?
I lived out of my car for about a year or two.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh dang.
It was during the 2008 recession.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had was going to school. I was working for San Diego County as a reserve. It's like a volunteer.
Yeah.
Stipend play. But yeah, man, and just like I read. So we'll start with one book first, and we'll get to the next book.
Sure.
And then you're working on a third book?
Yeah, I'm actually, so I have 3 books already. So I got The Hope for the 22, I have The Purpose Driven Pain, and then I have The Purpose Driven Pain in Spanish. That's the third book.
Okay.
And so that one's Sufrir con Propósito. And so it's pretty much the same thing, it's just in Spanish.
Okay.
And so I count that as my third because it was hard. I mean, I grew up speaking Spanish and understanding Spanish, but reading and writing it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I didn't even like it in English. You know, I was kind of forced to because I was in school. You know,
yeah.
That's why I joined the military so I could stay away from school. And he got a different plan for me, and he ended up deciding I was going to write a book or multiple books now.
Yeah.
And then I just published my buddy's book for him last week actually, and so I'm still waiting for the book to get to my house so that way I can show him the physical copy of his book.
Okay.
And so he had it written and stuff, and I just formatted everything, and I didn't charge him anything because he's an older Korean War veteran. Okay. And he did a lot for the mural here in Visalia, and so I was like, nah, I'm not gonna charge him. That's my way of giving to the mural as well.
Yeah.
And so and helping him out too. He's an older gentleman, older veteran.
Okay.
And so, but now I feel comfortable turning that into a business now, and so where I'm going to be a publisher as well, and I'm going to do that as a business. Whoever wants to write their books, they need someone to format their book and then get the book cover design and everything. I'll charge them that, I charge them whatever I end up charging. I don't know how much.
Yeah.
And so, but that's
awesome,
business.
man. Yeah, I've always thought about trying to write a book, but just like the daunt of like writing it, and then like I feel like my English is not like writing is not the most grammatic. I struggle with punctuations, grammar. So, but I think it would be an interesting path to kind of challenge, I guess you should say.
Oh yeah, and then you could also get an editor. And so that's pretty much what I did for him. I was just the editor and the editor.
I thought you said Edgar.
Oh no, it's the accent.
Okay.
Yeah, but the editor and the publisher, and so.
Okay.
And so.
So is Spanish your primary language growing up?
No, that was my first language, and so.
What the heck is going on with this thing?
Looked like it stopped.
Did it stop?
Oh. Yeah. I don't see it. It should show like a red, huh?
Yeah.
There it goes.
All right. Okay. Maybe it wasn't recording on this side, but it's all right. This one's recording over here. So
yeah.
We'll just, yeah. I kind of grew up. That was my mom only speaks Spanish, so it was when I was growing up. Like I hated speaking Spanish, but now I'm like very fortunate that she taught me growing up, and she forced me to speak in Spanish.
Oh yeah.
So
that's what my wife and I are doing with their girls.
Okay, yeah.
I speak to them in Spanish, and I just usually speak to them in English.
Elena
and Alina.
Alina.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because Elena, because you started reading the second book, right?
Yeah.
So that's how you know. And then because Alina doesn't come out in the second book.
Okay.
And so, but we have another baby girl too. And so, and Elena means beautiful light, and then Alina, actually, Elena means bright light, and Alina means beautiful light.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, that's what our daughter's names are.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
That's man. Just reading your stories, it's. I'm sure, like with my family, my brother just unfortunately had a miscarriage. That's a picture of him and his wife up there.
Oh, up there.
Yeah. So that's when they were in the 20s, early 20s.
Wow. And you said they just went through a miscarriage, so.
Yeah, we were all excited because we had a graduation celebration, and they surprised my brother because my brother always wanted another kid.
Yeah.
And she was kind of, on the fence about it.
Yeah.
And she got pregnant. They changed her birth control, and so they were pretty stoked, and they did the whole video of like surprising my brother with the news. The news. The news of pregnancy test.
Yeah.
And so they showed the whole family at the celebration, at the graduation celebration.
Yeah.
And so everyone was like happy and stuff. And unfortunately, he had a miscarriage.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what they're going through. They live up north, a couple hours.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'm going to get my brothers on some of the podcasts too.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, my brother Alex is a foreman for a construction company.
Oh, okay.
So most of my brothers do like blue collar work, tile work. But back to you with the books. So the Hope for 22. Since you've written the book, I know you've gone around. Is it just speaking with veterans?
Speaking, and I want to say I speak to anybody. I like to be in the grocery shop, or grocery shopping, or out with the kids at Chuck E. Cheese, or just wherever I go.
Yeah,
park, and so wherever I can, I share the book with people, and I kind of throw people off sometimes. They kind of feel awkward, but I always say, and I know it's kind of random, but I wrote these books to help anybody going through this, and this. And then I let them know. The reason I mention this is because you never know who you run into. If you got family or friends, I don't know if you do or not, but they might be struggling with those things. It might help them. Yeah. And so it's an icebreaker. It's an icebreaker, and then sometimes obviously people get a little, like they're a little introvert, and so they're like a little stunned. I was introvert, so I understand the introverts.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Yeah. I've always been. That's kind of been my comfort zone is an introvert. Yeah. But I think it's important to be a little bit of both. Yeah. I do like my private time, and especially the gym. You just kind of do your thing. What I was gonna say was, so I respected the book that you wrote and the stuff that you did. Fortunately, like I had a couple of guys come up to me and basically had plans to kill themselves, and just researching the numbers of suicides throughout the nation. There's been more firefighters that have died in the line of duty than have died. Have died of suicide in the line of duty. Wow. So I'm trying to help reverse that, and if anyone's out there trying to seek help, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Oh yeah. So and they're not alone. Yeah. Of course. We're all family, brothers, and especially military. I feel like you get that too. You know? So your time in Afghanistan. I just reading the book. The sense of when you were doing the IED training stuff, I could relate to that because when we're training as firemen, there's different hazards that we run into. If it's like electricity, gas. Oh yeah. So like every time we get on roofs, we're looking for those little triggers that say, hey, is this roof going to collapse? Like if it's on fire. So we're sounding, and sometimes there was a fireman from Fresno, Pete Dern, I believe is his last name. Ended up falling through a garage during a fire. He got burned up pretty bad. Yeah. But like just those hazards of going up and like, hey, is this okay? Like you get that like,
oh yeah,
you know,
constant anxiety.
Yeah.
Like paranoia almost, where you're like, is this gonna be my last day?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we had a gas leak yesterday, and someone had backed into their main their home gas meter.
Yeah.
And it was just.
Oh wow.
So we had to evacuate the neighborhood.
Oh dang.
But you know, there's a little bit of risk, but you know, we're trying to save people in case they did blow up, you know. So we spent a few hours mitigating that incident.
Oh wow. That could have been bad.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been in a firefight. That sounds fucking terrifying to me, but
and I was crazy enough to think it was fun.
You're infantry, right?
I was infantry, yeah. And so I was just insane. I was the little kid you see with the pretend rifle and just pretending he was Rambo, crawling in the dirt and stuff. I was digging potholes and doing all those things and crawling in the little trenches and stuff. And so we dug a hole. It was probably like 7.5 feet tall or deep. And we jumped in there, and it's all sand, and so that could have just collapsed on us. And so my uncle told us, "Get the hell out of there!" So don't you know that this stuff can collapse on you?
Yeah.
And so like that was my mindset. It was like always pretending I was in war, and so I always had that desire to want to save lives, which I feel like most veterans and first responders, that's the reason they go into what they get into. You know, being a firefighter, being a police officer, being a soldier, being a Marine, or just any of those things. You know, it's because they have that heart of a warrior, that have that heart of wanting to protect others. And save them from whatever harm can happen, you know, and willing to risk your own life. And so that's why I love what Jesus says about blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And so it's because they're willing to give up their own life for somebody that they don't even know, you know. And so even Jesus says there's no greater love than this, to put down your own life for your friends. And so the first responders and veterans, they're willing to give their own life for a stranger, random person, you know? Yeah. And so it takes a lot of cojones. It takes a lot of cojones to do that, a lot of guts to do that. And so, and that's what I want to do. I always want to save lives and stuff. And I feel like that's the reason there's so much suicide in those jobs, in those careers, because I mean, it's a calling. It's a calling, but then if that calling, you feel you lose that calling, then it starts diminishing you feel like you start losing your purpose in life. Yeah. And that's what happened with me when I got out of the military, because all I want to do is do something similar to the infantry, which is go kill the bad guy. And so I was like, well, I'm going to be a border patrol, so I kill the cartel, you know. That was my mindset, you know, but I feel God had a different purpose in my life. He's like, you're not going to kill the cartel, you're going to save them from going to hell. And so you're going to start preaching the gospel to these people that are lost, because they had a lot of messed up childhood, you know, childhood traumas and stuff. And so their parents raised them wrong. It's either that or they're just in horrible environments. And they got drawn into those bad crowds, you know. And so they just needed a guide. And so they need somebody to guide them the right direction. And so, and that's the reason I was like, well, I don't know what else to do with my life after I got out of the service and stuff. And so, and I know it's not chronological, I'm not in order right now, but it's just, I'm just going as it goes. And then, but anyways, and that's why I joined, or went to Dallas Baptist University in Dallas, and to be a PE teacher. And so, because I wanted to be that role model, you know, role model for the youth, and keep them away from doing drugs, from gangs, from all the stupid stuff. Like becoming a cartel because they think it's cool. It's ridiculous and stupid. You know, and so it's just, you're not doing anything to save anybody's life. And so you're actually putting more people's lives at risk, and your own and your family members, because you get involved in that, they're going to go after your family if you don't pay up or whatever. X, Y, Z, you know. And so just be a guide to them and be that father figure, because my grandfather was my father figure. And so my dad wasn't really there growing up and stuff. And so my grandfather was pretty much the reason I joined the Army, because I wanted to be just like him. I wanted to be infantry just like him, even though I knew my grandfather got shot in the face. Like, I still want to join the army and be infantry and be willing to die for my country.
Yeah.
And so my grandfather got shot in the face in Vietnam. And so he ended up flatlining when he was out in Vietnam, and he had an encounter with God. And so he seen this just bright light everywhere. It was just bright, and he heard a voice saying, "Come home, son." And then again, "Come home, son." And after the third time, "Come home, son." After the third time, my grandfather responded. He said, "I'm not ready yet. Let me finish raising my children, and then you could take me whenever you want." And when he said that, as soon as he said that, he woke up and he seen the combat medic getting him CPR. And so he's on top of him getting CPR. And nobody knew that story until my grandfather had passed away. And so my grandfather passed away. The only person that knew that story was my grandfather and that combat medic. So when my grandfather passed away, that combat medic that gave him CPR in Vietnam went to his funeral. He went to his funeral, and then he told my grandmother that story. And so that was after he told my grandmother. My grandmother told the family. When she told me, I told everybody, and I still do to this day. And that was when I think I was a freshman or in 8th grade or something. I think I was a freshman. And so ever since then, I started sharing that story with everybody.
Your grandfather, was he from the U.S., Mexico?
He was Mexican and Native American. And so I think he was Apache. I think he was half Apache.
Okay.
And so, and he was, he wasn't my blood grandfather, but for me, I didn't find that out until I was an adult. For me, like, he was really dark skinned, and I didn't think anything of it because my grandmother's light skin. And so I thought my mom just got my grandmother's side, but I didn't know that my mom didn't, her real dad. And so I don't know my real grandfather. And so, but for me, my blood grandfather is my grandfather that raised me. That blood doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's whoever was that person that was there for you. And so for me, it was my grandfather. And I don't have any kind of, what do you call it, hatred towards my dad, or any kind of resentment or anything or any bitterness towards my dad. And so, I love my dad, and I talk to him every now and then and stuff. And so he comes over and visits the family and stuff. And so, but yeah, both of my brothers and myself, we love my dad. And so we don't hold any resentment towards everything that he did that I spoke about in the book and stuff. Yeah. And then, because I knew he grew up, he had a pretty bad childhood. He didn't know his dad. And then my grandmother, so my dad's mom really wasn't a nice person. And so she wasn't really, "Oh yeah, I want to go with grandma." No, it wasn't like that, And so just bad friendships, I'm not going to say too many details because I don't want to destroy her image. No, she wasn't a good person. Yeah. But at the end, I was always praying for my grandmother, my dad's mom. And so I just kept praying for her. I was like, "God, save her, give her an opportunity to repent of what she's done." And so towards the end, I heard her story, and she told me this story because I asked her, "Hey, you know Jesus?" I asked her like that, and because I was sharing with her my testimony, my story, pretty much everything I wrote in the Hope for the 22, and she was crying, and she didn't know I was going to kill myself, and she was crying, and I asked her, "Do you know Jesus?" In Spanish, and she's like, "Oh, sí, mijo. Oh, yes, son. I know him. I have conversation with them every morning." And so that's what she told me. When she said that, I felt some peace, and then she told me a dream that she had. And so she told me this dream where she was dreaming that she was walking past this church. She was walking past the church, and she noticed that the doors were open. And so she was walking past it. She decided to go back and walk into the church. And as soon as she walked in, she sees Jesus standing at the altar, and he's dressed all in white, and he has a gold sash around his waist. And she says she's seen him, and she started walking down the aisle. And when she gets close to him, Jesus opens up his arms like this, like waiting for a hug. And she walks up to him and gives him a hug. And then that's when Jesus wraps his arms around her. And then, as she said, "I didn't want to wake up." She said, "That was the best dream I've ever had in my life." And she said, "I didn't want to wake up. I wanted to stay with Jesus in that dream forever." And she said that. And then she said, "But then I woke up because I heard something in the kitchen." And so, and I said, and then she said, oh man. And so she woke up, and then she went to go check. She got up and she went to go check. As soon as she opened her door, so her bedroom door, and then it's the living room right away. There's a small house, and then she seen this really bright light coming from the ceiling. This was like 2 a.m. or something, and so she seen this really bright light coming from the ceiling, and she said, it was the most beautiful light I've ever seen in my life. And she said, and it wasn't the light, because it's some other light I've never seen before. And she said, I want to keep looking at it, but then it disappeared. It just disappeared. So I decided to keep looking at, or check the kitchen to see what happened, or what was in the kitchen. And so she went and checked, nothing. So she started walking back. As soon as she was about to get into her room, that's when she seen the bright light come out again. She said, it was so bright, but it was so beautiful and bright, but it didn't hurt my eyes. And she said, I had so many different colors I've never seen on this earth. She said, it was God. She said, it was, era Dios, mijo. It was God, my son. And I just wanted him to take me right then and there. And so she went from having a dream of Jesus holding her to having a vision when she's awake, and she sees this while she's awake, you know. And so, and after that, I felt peace. I felt peace when she told me that dream and that vision that she had. And so and then I was able to share that story with, after she shared that with my wife and myself, I told my wife, after we took off, because this was in Mexico, we went back to Texas, and that's where we were living. And so I told my wife, I said, I have a feeling that my grandmother's going to pass away this year. And so, and I had that feeling with several people, multiple people that I had spoken to about Jesus, and I had that same feeling. I said, I don't know, I feel that she's going to die before the year ends. And yeah, 3 months later, she ended up passing away. And so she ended up, or 4 or 5 months later, and so she ended up dying. And so I went to her funeral, and I was always praying. I said, God, guide me, help me to be able to share some kind of hope with the family and the friends and everything and the neighbors. And so I go to the, you know how the Catholics, how they have the showing first. In Mexico, you have the showing first, and then they pray Hail Marys and the Our Fathers and everything, and then they have the open casket, and then after the next day it's in the church, and then the casket's in the center of the church, and then everybody's sitting down hearing the priest. And so I went, and the priest asked me if I can speak, if I can read from the scripture, and this is in Mexico and in Spanish, and I don't really read a lot of Spanish, but I got the book in Spanish. But I was like, okay, sure, I can read.
Now, I'm in the process of trying to get a gentleman that is from Lindsay. Mm-hmm. He's been a wildland firefighter for the last, I think, 48 years. He's almost hitting 50 years in the fire service.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he speaks Spanish.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to work on you know, trying to get better at speaking Spanish. Yeah. But yeah, it'd be fascinating to get him, because I talked to his sons. They live here locally. But I want to hear his story as well, as far as
48 years.
I guess so. They sent me some articles about, I guess they did a news story for ABC or one of the local news channels, but he works wildland season, and then when he's off of the season, he goes out and picks fruit.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so that's how he stays in shape.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's just always working. He's always had that same schedule of like wildland season firefighter to picking.
Wow.
Yeah. So be fascinating. He's out on these fires right now. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah, I kind of had a different upbringing with religion. Like most of my family from my mom's side are Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, okay. So
I never really understood the religion because it was in Spanish, and I just couldn't keep up. And then as I got older, I was kind of just floating around with different religions. Mm-hmm. My dad's Catholic, but he doesn't really practice. Okay. And I do get like the sense, because I have some Catholic friends, that when I went to the Catholic church, I didn't have that like presence of God. Like you said, it was more like a ritual.
Yeah.
You know, I felt the same way. And then it wasn't until I joined a church with my nephew, Westside Ministries. Shout out to Westside Ministries in Turlock. I was baptized there, and that's when I actually felt, you know, the Holy Spirit. I felt the presence of God. So it's always been like I lean more towards Christianity.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel more with God. Oh yeah. You know, that relationship with God. Even more so, like when I'm out in the mountains, you know, if I'm snowboarding or fishing, or if I'm out in the ocean, just the presence of God is just, it's amazing.
Just His creation. You could just see Him and just everything He created and everything. Yeah. And especially the ocean, you see the ocean, you're like, man, you don't know what's underneath. Like, you don't know what's down there in that water. And so He made everything. Yeah. He made all the beasts of the sea. And so it's amazing. And I also got, like, I was raised Catholic, and then I ended up going to Christian church here, and it's actually here in Visalia. It's called Heart of the Valley, and so shout out to the Heart of the Valley. Yeah, it's Pastor Brian, and then Pastor Richard and Pastor Johnny, and so they really good, just really great leaders. And so you don't get the vibe of, oh, these are creepy Christians or anything like that. You don't get that vibe. You don't get people like forcing you to go to the front or anything like that. I went to some of those, and it irritates me. Like, I want to hit somebody in church. And so, sorry, it's just Heart of Valley.
I recently been kind of checking out different churches here in the area, and I felt the same kind of way. Like, my first time going there, like I was like, okay, I'm unsure. And then, like, the pastor kept looking at me like, hey, you want to come up to the front? I'm like, I don't really know anybody here. Like, I just want to come worship. And then but I guess everyone has their own personal way of worshiping, or so the book that you're writing next, so I'm gonna show you a couple of books to the camera. So Lino's wrote this book here. It's Hope for 22. It's for the 22 veterans that commit suicide every day. And he's also written Purpose Driven Pain. Fantastic books. You could get these on Amazon.
Yes, sir. Okay. On Amazon, Barnes & Noble's website, and then Barnes & Noble's here in Visalia. And then downtown Visalia on Main Street, you get the Book Nook as well. Okay. So, and then also, if people want it from me personally, that's another option too. And so they can just send me a message. If you guys want to add me on Instagram or Facebook, it's my name, Lino Camancho, Lino, and then Camacho on Facebook. And then on Instagram, it's Hope for the 22. You guys can send me a personal message or direct message to there. And then you guys want it from me, I like to dedicate the book and then put my contact info in the books. And so that way, if you guys let someone borrow that book, or if you yourself is going through something, I'm open to talk and listen. And so that's the reason I do that. That's the reason I put the numbers in the books and stuff. Yeah,
I'll make sure to add the links to the video. Okay. If they want to purchase the books, and to follow you as well on your future endeavors. So the time that you spent in Afghanistan, what's your stance on the whole war situation? Do you have a stance, or do you want to talk about it? On the just like, because I have a friend that served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he kind of regretted it now that he's out. But I'm gonna have him on the podcast too. But I don't know. I've never served. You know, as far as military wise, I almost did. This is like right after 9/11. I was pretty pissed off, you know, with what happened. There was a Marine recruiter that was like kept calling the phone, hey, you gonna sign up, you gonna sign up. My mom was just terrified that I was gonna go and die in war, so I really didn't want to break her heart, so I just never signed up for it. But I don't know, I've had mixed feelings about it, just because of, you know, 9/11, and then like the weapons of mass destruction, which there wasn't anything there.
Yeah.
And now that Ukraine and Israel are at it, I'm sorry, Ukraine, Russia, and then Israel and Iran, and so hopefully everything gets settled. I mean,
and I know according to Scripture, it's not. It will be, but that's when Jesus comes back.
Yeah.
And so that's when He's going to restore everything. And it talks about in the end times, every nation is going to be against Israel. And so we're starting to see that now. And we got all these nations that are warring against Israel and just right there waiting, waiting to destroy it. And but yeah, no, I definitely stand with Israel. I mean, I gotta stand with God's people,
Yeah.
And so it says anybody that stands against God's people, God's gonna go after them.
Yeah.
And so I'm not gonna be doing that,
Yeah.
I'm definitely, whoever God tells me to support, that's what I'm gonna be supporting, And when it comes to like Afghanistan and all that, like I see the, what do you call it? ISIS and all that, when they started popping up out of nowhere. And that's something actually that they took out of my book, is they took out some things that I spoke about ISIS. I started seeing ISIS after we came back from Afghanistan. And because over there they got Afghan local police, Afghan National Army, ALP and ANA. And we would provide these white Toyota pickup trucks for the Afghan National Army and the Afghan local police. And so that way they can start patrolling. So the intention was so they can start patrolling, that's what they say, is so that they can start patrolling their own people and get the Taliban out of their own place. That way they can do their job in their own nation, in their own country, And so, but before coming back, there's a bunch of connexes, a bunch of those, I don't know the other term that they use for connexes, but those big old
C-train
containers. We had multiple on each, almost every company had lost. And I say lost because there's no way you're going to lose, every company is going to lose one. And so it's not like a conspiracy theory, but I saw it. And so and then I see all these ISIS on TV months later after we come back, and because we had lost those connexes full of ammunition, and so 5.56 rounds, and you have all these saws, you got all these M4s, all these weapons, all these firearms that we lose. And then we got all these explosions as well. And so we have uniforms as well, military uniforms, U.S. uniforms that we lost. And then we provide all these white pickup trucks for the ANA and ALP. And we come back and I see all this on the news. I see all these white pickup trucks with ISIS dressed in American uniforms.
Yeah, they had a parade.
Yeah. American uniforms, and they have like American weapons and then ammunition and stuff. And I was like, well, this is a little strange. I remember there's a bunch of sea trains that got lost supposedly, and so I don't know, I just saw that and I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of service. And
that must have been kind of, I guess, eerie, because I know in the book you call some of the Afghan police backstabbers, and I'm sure there's guys out there, they don't like us.
Oh yeah. You can't trust them.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what their intent is.
Yeah.
And you got to be paying attention to their demeanor. And so, and a lot of them have this just demonic, just blank look in their eyes, and just like they don't mind killing you. And so you have to watch out for all those things. And I don't know if I talk about what three Afghans did. There's three, I think two of them were 17 and 16 or something like that. And then one of them was like in his 20s. And then I was pulling security on the door, and these guys right here in front of me, like closer than how we are right now, and they're just standing in front of me, and I was standing right there with my rifle. And then they're telling me different body parts. They were saying, like, they would point to themselves and say the body part and say how did I say it, and so I would repeat it, and they're like, oh yeah, see, yeah, and so they'll clap.
Oh, you mean in their language? In
their language, yeah, in
Gotcha.
Pashto. And so they would clap and be like, oh yeah, and then so they kept going down the body parts and stuff, and then they got to the the genitals, and instead of doing it to himself and saying what the body part name is, he went like that to me. He tapped me on the nuts. He tapped me there, and then I muzzle thumped him, and then I told him, get the hell back, I'm gonna kill you. And so, because all three of them were like, oh, I'm not good. When I did that, I said, hey, get the hell back, and then all three of them were like, like they're all shaking. And I still remember their faces. They're terrified because I was gonna kill them. Yeah. If they did that again, I said, I said, hell no, you knock that shit off. Oh, excuse me, knock that stuff off. And so, yeah, they didn't do that again. And so, yeah, that was just a little story that
I know. Well, yesterday was the anniversary for the 13 soldiers that died.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
In Afghanistan. I just feel like it could have been handled differently, better,
yeah.
You know. Because there was like no negotiations, you know, with they have hostages in Palestine, or Hamas does.
Yeah.
So it just feels like we could have tried to negotiated something with them to try to bring those Americans back, but just unfortunately it wasn't the case.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend for people dealing with, I know one thing I liked about this book that you wrote here, Purpose Driven, is you have those like footnotes of towards the end of the chapters, of ways to try to mitigate, you know, situations that you're going through. I would say, what would you say to guys going through PTSD now, if you would?
I guess the best advice I can give, because I just think about what I was going through at that time, is I'm just gonna be just bold, just frank, very frank with everybody. But I had to pull my head out of my ass, and so I had to pull my head out where the sun don't shine, and it starts with pride. And so if you have pride, you got a lot of machismo, you got the macho man mentality. I mean, I grew up Hispanic, there's a lot of machismo with the Hispanics. Yeah. And then my last name's Camancho, California, abbreviated, and then you got macho at the end. And so I was born in California. And so I had my brain, like my head was so big because I had this macho man mentality, and I was thinking to myself, if I can't cry in front of anybody because it shows I'm weak. It's a sign of weakness. But what I tell people is, what I tell veterans and first responders, people in general, is don't be afraid to cry in front of people. If you're afraid, that makes you weak. So in reality, if you really want to be really macho, is you want to really have the balls to cry in front of people, cry in front of people. That means you don't care about what they think about you, because you already, you don't have no self-esteem issues. You know who you are.
Yeah.
And you know that, you're strong, you're willing to die for people, so who cares what anybody else thinks? You're never going to please everybody. No. So as long as you're pleasing God and doing His will, and then you don't have to worry about anybody else, And so who cares? Cry and do all the goofy things you got to do in front of your kids in public. Who cares who's watching? Do all the goofy stuff. Your kids are going to remember that for the rest of their lives, And so I tell the guys, I specifically say it to the guys because the guys have a lot of machismo, And so just pull your head where the sun don't shine. You drop the pride. Be willing to be vulnerable. Be willing to be goofy in front of people, if you're doing that with the kiddos and stuff, and have fun. Have fun. I'm not saying go sleep around. That's not what I'm trying to say, or get drunk and stuff. Just have fun with people, Just love people. Just love on people, and who cares about what anybody else thinks about you if they think you're weak because you're calling out for help. So be willing to come out of your comfort zone and go and be vulnerable, because in transparency, in a marriage, you gotta be transparent, or else that marriage isn't gonna last. And so if there's no transparency, there's gonna be secrets, and the wife is gonna feel like you have a secret, the husband's gonna feel like she has a secret because she's not opening up, because he's not opening up, and so it just tears each other apart. And so, and they just start getting mad at each other for no reason, and then But yeah, that's the best thing, is drop the pride. Drop the pride. If you get mad at somebody, if you get mad at, especially if you get mad at your spouse, don't be afraid to make your spouse laugh or something. Just do something goofy that makes fun of the situation. So that just happened yesterday with me and my wife. And so I forgot what she did. I just, and then I said something. She said, "You didn't help me do this and this and that." I was like, "Oh, okay," because I already know I did breakfast, and then I like help with the girls and stuff. And so she was just really stressed out, and so I asked her, "Am I doing good right now? Is this enough?" And so I just kept doing that to her, and then I made her laugh. And so that's how it's like saying, forget about the situation.
It's a stupid fight.
Yeah, stupid fight. And so that's one way that I've noticed helps me, is dropping the pride and be willing to say, "Hey, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And because, I mean, my daughter, she burned her hand, when was it? A year and a half ago. Really bad, just horrible burn on her. It was like 2 years ago. On her hand, it was a third-degree burn, and so I know firefighters know that.
Wow, that's a severe burn.
Yeah, a third-degree burn on the iron, and so she put her hand on the iron.
Wow.
And so I was washing dishes that morning, and then my daughter was watching TV. My wife was in the master bedroom ironing the clothes and stuff, and so she leaves the iron right there on the nightstand, and then she goes into another room and she sees that my daughter's watching the TV, but she didn't think my daughter's gonna probably get up and go into the master bedroom to see what mom's doing, and that's what happened. And so I'm washing dishes. I'm focused on washing dishes. I don't know that my wife is ironing, and so all I hear is this horrible scream from my daughter, and I just hear screaming, and then I hear my wife run out of the other room saying the la plancha, and so the iron, and then I just lost it. I said and then I went to go see, and then I saw my daughter's hand all like bubbled up and stuff, and so it's huge burn.
Has she recovered since? Or
yeah. Oh yeah. And so like there's you can see that it's scarred and everything, but there's no loss of range of motion or range, and so she got full range of motion. She's got full mobility, and so it burned all along right here, and so it didn't get into the crease. You know, when you fold your hand, it didn't get in between, so it's like all up on here where you get calluses on your hand.
Yeah,
it was all right there where she got burned, and then on the fingertips, and a little bit over here, and so but she's got, I mean, it's like nothing happened. I mean, you can still see it, but she uses like nothing, you know. And so that was the day they had a baby shower for our other baby was gonna be born. It was the same day, and so we were about to get ready to go over there. That's why my wife was ironing her clothes, and then I was just angry. I was angry at my wife and stuff, and then I'd said some horrible things, and and that was years ago too. So I just and I brought that up yesterday. And I brought it up again yesterday because she was complaining about how I didn't do this over here, or I did something over here where it's because our daughter dropped all the jamaica, all the juice all over the table because I forgot to put it on the counter, and then my wife said something about that, like, "Hey, you have to be responsible and put it up here." And I remembered that situation where it was not as serious, or like this is as serious as what happened to her hand, to my daughter's hand. She got burnt because she left the iron on the nightstand, and so I brought that up to my wife again yesterday, and so that obviously caused a huge fight. And then my wife threw some water on me, and I had to leave the house because I was gonna destroy some stuff. I was looking for something that she really liked so I can destroy it. And so like childish things, because when you're angry you do stupid things.
Yeah.
And so it's the pride. It's that pride. And so that's why I say don't be afraid to drop the pride. And so that's why I decided to leave before I did something stupid or said something stupid, and I took off. And then and what was interesting, I went to Barnes & Noble, and I had my books there as well, and so I went there. I was going to start writing my third book, And so, or the fourth book. I was gonna start writing my fourth book and stuff. And then I seen somebody looking at some books, and I was like, hey, I know it's kind of random stuff, but I got my book right there. I don't know if you can see it. I pointed at it, and then I went and picked it up, and I showed him. I said, hey man, I just picked that book up earlier, like not even 5 minutes ago. And so I just thought it was curious. It was interesting that, like, I went to Barnes & Noble because I got in a fight with my wife, you know, and I just think it's interesting. I got connects everything, and they ended up getting the book, and so they wanted me to sign the book for them and stuff. And then some other ladies as well in the Spanish version, and so I signed the book for them as well. And so all because I got in a fight, and I decided to drop the pride and not say anything and take off and give my wife some space and give me some space. And I went there and to focus on working on God's book for people struggling and stuff. And then I ended up helping some other people because all because of something bad, of a fight, you know. Yeah. But anyways, after that, I told my wife I'm sorry and I apologized and all those things. And then we were just laughing about it. And she told me, I thought throwing the water on you was gonna cool you down. And so that's why I started cracking up when she told me. At that moment, no, I was filling up another thing of water so I can throw it at my wife, and she locked the door on me. She went inside with the girls, and that's why I had to take off. Yeah, and so, but yeah, so things like that. So when you have pride, it makes you childish. Yeah. You do childish things, and that's why I tell people, best advice I can give you, whoever's going through PTSD, is drop the pride and be willing to be vulnerable. And then also another thing I think is very important is don't make it a requirement to where you can only speak to somebody that's been in your shoes. Like, for example, if you're a veteran, you only want to speak to veterans. Or if you're a first responder, you only want to speak to first responders. Speak to somebody that's willing to listen to you. Because sometimes the first responders or the veterans, they're the last person that's going to want to talk to you or listen to you. And that's, who are you going to speak to? In that case, you're going to have to wait years and years and years. Because you're not comfortable opening up to somebody that's in your immediate circle. And so that's why I like to give my contact info out, because I'm out of that immediate circle where I'm open to talk and listen. They can ventilate. And that's something that I talk about is for firefighters. I know that firefighters know that term of what a blevy is. And so the speech that I give all the time is avoid the blevy in life. And so avoid the blevy in life and just open up the valve. And so don't be afraid to open up, be vulnerable, and talk about the hell that you're going through, the pain that you're going through, all that pressure building up inside is eventually going to blow up. If you don't open up the valve, if you don't talk about it, eventually you're going to blow up and you're going to destroy yourself and you're going to destroy everything around you. That's why people get their relationships destroyed, their marriages, just everything. Everything becomes chaos. It's just chaotic.
Yeah, I think with military, fire, police, there's like the training, you know, the training is rigorous. Yeah. And they almost make you emotionless.
Oh yes.
You know, and robotic in a way.
I agree.
And after years of doing that, it compounds, you know, that blevy that you're talking about. So I think it is really important to have connections and relationships that are not just firemen or not just policemen or you know, military. That's part of my goal, is to actually reach out to other blue-collar workers, you know, because I also want to learn new skills as a man, like, you know, welding, plumbing, electrician. So I'm actually having a fabricator on the podcast here in a couple weeks too. But yeah, I think just overall that the compound of just having that robotic mindset when you go into work, a lot of guys don't know, and gals don't know how to deal with that that pressure, that stress. And it's just, you know, it's unfortunately they sometimes go down a dark path. You know? So,
and at least medicating the pain, you can go to drugs, you can go to alcohol, and go to sleeping around.
Well, there was one time in my life where I I was drinking pretty much every day on my day offs.
Wow.
You know, I would get home, I would just start drinking.
Yeah.
You know, just to like erase what I just went through and just, you know, blur it out. You know. So, you know, God was fortunate enough to teach me a lesson with that, and I kind of went away from. You know, I drink occasionally, obviously, but
I do too.
Yeah, but I'm not like consuming every day or anything like that. But yeah, I think it's important to share this information to people that are struggling. They're currently going through it right now.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully, is, you know, whoever's watching could you know, take this and run with it.
And one thing I was going to say, sorry to cut you off, is I was going to say that one important thing I like to mention, because I know veterans and first responders see a lot of death, and I like to remind people that that body is temporary. There's a soul inside that body, and so when we lose this body, our soul either lives forever or dies forever. And so it's just and I truly believe that, you know, and that's why, that's our hope. That's my hope, is that I know that all the loved ones that I've seen die in my hands, or just I mean, family or friends, or just random people that you see dead, is just a reminder that that body is temporary. And so that traumatic scene of XYZ, all the horrible things that veterans and first responders see, is that that body is temporary, and that soul is going to live forever. And so, especially if it's a baby, you know, that baby, that child that you've seen, that traumatic scene, God takes care of that child. You know, that child's soul is in heaven forever, you know. And so, and that's what I like to remind people of, is that God takes care of the little ones, you know. God takes care of the little ones. And so when it comes to like, if they're an adult and stuff, they didn't repent of their sins. At least that's what I truly believe, is they didn't repent of their sins. They didn't accept Christ as their Savior and stuff. They already decided. So God gives us the opportunity to choose if we want to go to heaven or we want to go to hell. And unfortunately, most people choose to go to hell. And so, because they don't want to choose to accept Christ, have faith in what Jesus did on the cross, and He died for our sins. And so, if I send my son to go and die for people that don't deserve it, and these people that don't deserve it aren't willing to believe or to have faith in my son, what he did, and why am I going to send him? Why am I going to invite them to my home? You know, no, I mean, you're trash. You're going to go into the hell that you chose, you know. And so, but this is what I like to remind people, is this body's temporary, you know, and that's that hope that we have.
You know what's fascinating is I've heard of I don't remember where I got the information from, but whenever there's a baby or conceived, there's an actual physical light that turns on in the womb.
I've seen that.
And so I just thought that's fascinating. Like, you know, because my niece also had a miscarriage. It was pretty much almost full term.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I mean, she's had another child since, and actually his birthday's on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
But I know she's still hurting.
Yeah.
You know, that's why, you know, I'm gonna give her this book. I do like the fact that too, that with this, the purpose-driven pain, that you and your wife were part of writing this book.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool. You know, you guys are working together to try to do God's work. So yeah, it's just I guess I forget what I was going to say about the miscarriages, but you guys dealt with it. I know your wife did.
It was on.
And just like with the stuff that she wrote in the book about like the process, I never knew like of the pain that comes along with the miscarriage, you know. I think this one's pretty much out. Let me see. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, there it goes.
All right, I want to make sure this one's going too, I think. Yeah, this one's still going, but we're almost out of batteries, so.
Oh, okay.
We'll do another podcast though, because eventually I want to have it set up where it's like a long format podcast as well. And then plus, you know, when you come out with the new book, we'll talk about that and just, you know, catch up on life, you know.
Yeah.
Are you going to the gym today?
Yeah, actually, I have to go to the gym because I don't know, once I found my calling in life, because I was a police officer in Texas. I also went to the fire academy, and so that's where I learned the term levy. So when I went to the fire academy, I graduated and everything, but I was like, I don't want to do any of the medical side.
Yeah.
I felt comfortable taking a bad guy's life, but I didn't feel comfortable having to save somebody's life and their life being in my hands, you know.
So I felt the opposite, because like my dad he was a correctional officer.
Mm-hmm.
I say law enforcement, he's a correctional officer. He always pushed me towards law enforcement growing up, and I took criminal justice, like ROP in high school, and then in college I studied criminology. And when I went to go do a ride along with LAPD, you know, because going to school is different. You're sitting down, you're not in that environment, you're just watching people work. When you're actually in that environment, it's different.
Oh yeah.
So I knew I still wanted to do something in public safety.
Yeah.
My buddy Justin, shout out to Justin from San Diego Fire, he introduced me to EMS, the EMT program, and then we both went to the fire academy, and that's where I just like, all right, this is my calling, this is what God's, you know, put me to do. And I feel like physically fit to be a good fireman, so so that's kind of my route from law enforcement to fire. But I mean, they both serve a tremendous purpose for the community. So
of course,
I respect you guys, because I couldn't, you know, pull out a gun and start shooting at people or get shot at. Like for me, that's like crazy. But now, like for me, if people think of running into a burning building is crazy, and I'm like, no, I don't want that.
We're just crazy in different ways. Yeah. And so but public needs our craziness to be able to keep them safe, you know. Yeah. And so, but no, and that's the reason I got out of fire, and that's the reason I got up being a police officer, because when I was making those arrests, I was like, I don't even want to be arresting this person. But when you're the new guy, you don't have officer discretion. Yeah. And so I was like, and this person's all drugged up, like I want to help, I want to talk to this person about Jesus, you know. And so, because I know the childhood was more than likely rough. Yeah. And so I had too much sympathy, and it's also dangerous if you're a police officer and you have too much sympathy or empathy for people, is that you're a little bit you're not trigger happy, and so that's a good thing. But when it comes to, okay, you have to take this person's life, I was thinking about, and what was his childhood like? What was her childhood like? You know, and so I was constantly thinking about that. And so the warrior of not minding taking somebody's life, like I feel like it dissipated after I accepted Christ in my life, and I started understanding people's childhoods. And so, but yeah, that's the reason I got being a police officer and focused on finishing up the second book. So I was already finishing up the second book, and I just put it on standby. You know, I put it on standby, and I had the first one published, but this one I had on standby, and I focused on my book, and I was happy. I was in debt. I was in debt, but I was happy because I was doing my purpose, and then my purpose was writing books and selling the books and stuff, and then making an income that way. And now I do public speaking events and stuff, and now I get paid for that too. And so that's a huge blessing right there. I never thought I was going to be a public speaker that gets paid to do it. I didn't think I was good enough to talk, and so. But yeah, anyways, that's what happened, and I wrote the second book in Spanish, and Sufrí con Propósito, and then but yeah, now I'm gonna do publishing as well as I guess I turned into an entrepreneur. I never knew what that was until I started doing it, you know. After I got all those jobs.
I guess I had a mix of both, because my mom was an entrepreneur, and then my dad, you know, was a correctional officer, so it was like a little bit of both. And that's why that's probably why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Is do a little bit of both.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true, man.
So I'm very fortunate for my parents and my family. Even though we're not perfect, you know, I had a brother that in his 20s developed severe schizophrenia.
Oh.
And became a drug addict.
Yeah.
And so dealing with him, his episodes, in and out of rehab, it was a challenge, you know. And my brothers having little kids didn't want to bring the kids around because of his episodes. So that was pretty tough on my mom, you know, and probably my dad too. I see that doesn't show it, you know, machismo. Yeah. But so that was, you know, a little challenging for the family, but for the most part, everyone's good. My brother's in a mental hospital now, and my mom checks on him. I need to go check on him too here eventually, but for the most part, she sounds like he's doing really well in the mental hospital. So it's a lot better than being in the streets. You know. Oh yeah. Eventually he's gonna get killed or die or something, you know, because he would always come home like just tore up. Wow. You know, so. But that's pretty much our battery's gonna run out. So we'll do another podcast here soon and catch up, and we'll go hit a gym session. And
actually, I don't know if I'm gonna go right now, or I think I'm gonna go home for a little bit, and then I think my wife's gonna get some of her free time. Yeah, she needs it.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know we both got busy schedules, so I got to deal with uploading this and kind of editing it. So but yeah, man, we'll catch up and do it again soon.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, man.
I got a shirt for you, and a sticker, and a hat. So,
thank you, man.
What size of shirt do you wear?
Large? Medium. Not medium.
Medium?
Yeah.
Okay. I got. Hook you up with one of these stickers here. Oh yeah, there's a sticker there. You can have that one there, and then I'll get you a shirt.
Oh, the HalliGoons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite tool in the fire academy.
Oh yeah. Do you know that tool has never been changed since it was developed?
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was Captain HalliGoon.
Oh, that was his name?
Yeah, he was from New York. He developed a tool like in the 1930s.
Oh, wow.
1938, I think.
1930s still.
And there's been really different tools that come out, but that's kind of been the universal tool that's never changed.
So it's great for prying open doors and breaking doors open.
Yeah, so I got you a gray one here, and then I got you a green one. This was a large, and this one's a medium.
Oh, okay.
So hook you up with that, and then I got you a hat too.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, man. I'm gonna use it at the gym.
I'm also working on developing some new product, do some new hats and new shirts.
Oh, cool, man. Oh, that's nice.
There you go.
Hey, thank you, brother.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to purchase one of these shirts or hats, the link will be down below. And thanks for listening. And we'll see you soon.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, it's been good.
And I kind of went in a rabbit hole with my grandmother and my grandfather's story.